Good after what evening? It's evening time. Good evening, everyone, for joining us as we do this author story time. I'm so excited because of just one, just even before we went live, just talking about this book and just like the importance of the message. And in a minute, we're going to have the author introduce themselves. But as you come in, share this live. Definitely let us know you're here. This is our family story time, which means that we're able to have a family conversation. We're going to have a live reading. We're going to do an interview. It's going to be a great opportunity for you to just learn about the inspiration behind this book and be able to just really be able to have, I believe, a must have in your home as we're going through just very interesting times right now. And so as you come in again, share, share, share. And we're going to jump right in and start in with our introduction of our author. So I'm actually going to have you introduce yourself and just tell a little bit about your background, and then we will get into our interview.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jaleana Stevenson. I am author of Jabaris World, The Profound Question. Um, I am a New Orleans native. Um, Grew up in DC for a little while, so I have that also in my bloodstream, if you will. So I'm a New Orleanian Washingtonian, and uh, and I am a flight attendant by trade.
Got you, got
Now
you.
author, which is a really honorable thing for me at this time for what I'm doing. I mean, I impress myself just a little bit.
Just a little bit. So even you said like now an author. So like when did you start writing? Like is this your first book or has this been something you've always enjoyed doing?
This is my very first book. It's never anything that I've dreamed that I'd do. Um, I was inspired, and I took that inspiration and I basically ran with it. And I'm so glad that I did because the product that I came out with, I'm very proud of.
I love it. So
So I
inspiration.
started. Oh no,
Yeah.
I did. I'm sorry. I
Yeah, go
started
ahead.
writing. I started writing this book over the summer. Let's say around April, May, and I was done the illustrations and the I was done with the writing the day that I started the book,
Mm,
and the illustrations took me 2 weeks. Publishing, however, took about 3 months.
got you. So the whole process in itself was like a 3 month writing, illustrating, publishing type
Yeah,
process.
yeah, it was a 3 month process for me.
So even you just saying that you were done with this book in a day is amazing. So that really just means the inspiration comes from a very personal place. Can you kind of share my next question? Like, what are the inspirations that really help birth this book?
Okay, so I have so many inspirations from so many places. Um, I have experienced personally and watched personally um, authority being abused. Um, I also have seen it time and time again. We see it on the television.
Yeah.
Um, but over this summer, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor were killed, right? And we watched this play out, and I I identify that there was some type of shifting in our environment, shifting in a good way,
Yeah.
because people, not just black people, but white people and Asian and people started to notice that hey, this is just not right.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for this, and they started having protests. So my then 10-year-old niece challenged me to go to a protest. And I was on an injury from work at the time. So I didn't have an excuse not to go. And I'm like, I can't have her showing me up.
Right.
So, so we put our mask on and we went to the protest. And, probably when I was a kid, we probably would have made signs, but kids are so cute. Like they had their little tablets, like no justice, no peace written on their tablets, holding them up. And
You're like, we
she's
are new
walking.
age revolutionaries,
Right.
okay?
This is what's going on, right? So she's holding her little sign up, and I'm watching her, and I'm watching the passion that she's exuding at 10. And I'm looking at her like, wow, like her life is forever changed no matter which direction she goes in,
Yeah.
just because of this moment.
Yeah.
And I watched that, and that was a part of my inspiration. And then about 3 days later, I have a girlfriend who's a nurse, and she works at Yale Hospital. And they had some type of open forum at work where she was allowed to just discuss what was going on in the economy and society, and just kind of vent because, we're going through a pandemic. She's a nurse, there's COVID. It's just a lot for anybody in the medical field to digest, and it's stressful on them right now, right?
Yeah.
So she gets up, and she says, I come into work and I do my job every day with a smile on my face, and it's getting difficult for me to wear a smile when I'm watching my brothers and sisters being murdered in the streets. I have a black husband, I have a black father, I have black nephews. Like, God forbid anything ever happened to them, but I'm watching it, and it's wearing on me. And I'm like, wow. And she's like, after she finished, one of her counterparts came to her, who happened to be Caucasian. And she said, I meant to call you and ask you if you were okay. She said, but I didn't know what to say. And I didn't know if I said something that would trigger you. And I knew racism existed in that magnitude, but I thought it was something that happened like 70 years ago.
Mm.
And in that moment, I was just like, okay. So the young lady asked my girlfriend, what could she read, or what documentaries could she watch to educate herself on what's actually going on, because she feels like she's been living in a bubble.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend gave her that information. And after we had the conversation, I was, we kind of disagreed on certain things that took place, because we're different individuals, and I pride myself on having friends that they have different mindsets, and we all bring something to one another's lives because we think differently. But we agreed on one thing, that now there was a shifting. And I said, it since there is a shifting, and you can see that people are paying attention now we can talk about these things.
Yeah.
And just like you gave her the tools to educate herself on what had taken place or what's been taking place, just as she needs to educate herself, we need to educate our children.
Yeah.
And that's where the birth of the book came from.
I love it. And I think even like you said, like giving people entry points to have those conversations. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because you can have people who are sincerely like, I want to learn more. And then as we get to the book, like who just have a lot of questions. You know what I mean? And I don't know how to tackle those questions. So we'll get to, a little bit more about the content of the book. But getting this story out, knowing that it was so publishing, like was it difficult to get it published? I know you said it was a 3 month stand, but like the actual process.
Listen, the publishing part was my nightmare. Only because the book is only, first of all, I like I said, I never dreamed of writing a book, right? So I had to learn a lot during this process. Um, 2 pages is considered 1 page in the book world.
Okay.
And I probably have uh, 11, 12 pages. So I wanted to originally take the book, give it to a publishing company, let them deal with it, right? And I did research on that, and that just was not in my best interest. I felt like publishing companies was like going to Death Row Records. And I was like, I'm just not there to do.
You will not sugarcoat my book.
Listen, I had a completed book, right? And I was going to them, and they were like, oh, well, we'll take your book and you pay us this amount of money, and we'll give you 25% of what we make off the book. And I'm like, wait. So I don't even get half of what you make off of the book, and I'm bringing you something that's already done. And it's nothing a la carte. It's everything is like, you pay for the illustrations, the front, back cover, all of that was done. And I'm like, but that doesn't make sense for me to pay for that when that's already done. They're like,
Exactly.
well, you can take it or leave it. So I was like, yeah, this is Death Row Records. No thanks. So then I had to look into self-publishing. And I did that. And in looking into self-publishing, you have to have 24 pages with Amazon to self-publish. And
Mm.
I only had like 13. They're like, oh, you can create more pages. And I'm like, no, I can't.
Like the story's the
So,
way I wanted to be.
so I'm like, it's done. And I want it to be left the way it is because it's supposed to be a simple reading. I don't want it to be a long reading. That the message is clear, it's precise, it's good. So I meditated on that, and I had a friend of mine who also wrote a book, and he posted on social media, and I called him, and I'm like, oh my God, let me just tell you how you are a brother of my own heart. Like, I just finished a children's book. I'm having problems with publishing. And he's like, why don't you do self-publishing? And I'm like, but I tried and I don't have enough pages. And he's like, no, do self-publishing. And he walked me through the steps to self-publish while I pay for the printing. What came along with that was a multitude of another responsibility around that I wasn't expecting,
Mm.
because I had to build a website to self-publish, and I had to get certain things in order so people could pay for it online and it could be shipped out. And it Jabari's World has taken over my life. Like, like literally. I am I'm working every day just about, and then it's checking book orders and making sure things are posted, and it's amazing, but it's a busy life for me right now.
Yeah, yeah, and I talk to authors, and they'll share about self-publishing versus traditional publishing, and that's the part. Like the traditional publishing, they do handle that piece, but I think, like you said, you being able to learn that process, you were able to own from beginning to end what you wanted to look like. You know what I mean? And so you can, in some ways, feel like it's a give and take, but I think now going forward, it should be simpler, right? Because now you have a process.
Oh, I got it now. It's
Yeah.
it's not gonna take 3 months. It'll be like a month and a half, maybe. I think it takes like 6 weeks for them to digitize everything and print. But yeah, it'll be like a month and a half next time.
Love it, love it, love it. So you've talked about the writing and publishing. Let's get into like the creativity of the illustration. And I was excited to hear about who was behind these illustrations.
Oh
So
my
tell us about
gosh.
the publishing, printing. Tell us about illustrations, the creative
So
process.
let me tell you, let me embarrass my baby. My daughter drew Jabari. I
I
am
love it.
so elated and proud of her for that. Um, I gave her the story, and I woke up the next morning and she had drawn this cutest little boy. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love with him. And she did not think that he was suitable enough to introduce to the world. And I'm like, hey, listen, because I wanted her to do the illustration for the whole book. She wouldn't commit to it because she didn't think her artwork was good enough. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to give you credit for this little boy, and I'm going to find somebody else to do this. I said, because he is absolutely fabulous. And I love him all the more because it's something my baby did.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I took him, I went through like 5 different illustrators, and the best woman won. A young lady named Christina Rendenko. She's in Russia. I
Oh,
found her
wow.
over the computer. And when I tell you professional, expeditious, just she's such a blessing, just a warm spirited person. I was like, okay, okay. But that's all God. He just aligned everything because it was placed in my spirit, and everything just kind of flowed. Outside of the publishing, like I said, the book was done in one day. Christina was done illustrations in 2 weeks.
Wow. Wow.
It's a beautiful thing.
I know. Wow. And so you got the book, you got the story, you got the publishing. So then this title, like what made you name it Jabari's World?
Okay, so Jabari is the son I never had.
Hmm.
Not too many people know that. And his the name Jabari is spelled differently because I had to do like the copywriting thing, and somebody else had another Jabari. So um, the name in itself means courage and strength. And Jabari's World is a title, but my vision for Jabari's World is titles and subtitles. So the profound question is the subtitle of the book, and each book will have a subtitle based upon what that book is about.
I like
and Jabari asked some profound questions in this book that I thought that was the perfect subtitle for the book.
I love it. Well, we are, and we're building this up, you all, because we are at the point we're gonna do a live reading, and so
Yay!
I am so excited to hear this book. I have my copy here. I need you to see I have my copy, and I'll be reading and following along. But if you are just tuning in with us, please share this live. We are learning about Jabaris World. You have joined in right at the live reading. After the live reading, we're going to continue our conversation with a few more questions. But again, if you have questions, if you have any comments at the end, please put them in the chat. They can be projected. And at this time, I'm actually going to pull my screen out, and it'll just be you to read. As soon as you're done, I'll come back in. So it's all you, girl. You got this.
Thank you. Okay, so today we are reading Jabari's World, The Profound Question. The foreword in this book is dedicated to the many lives that have been lost due to racial injustices of the world. It is also dedicated to the inspirational people who are being awakened to the systematic injustices to the Black community. Finally, it is also dedicated to the late Senator John Lewis. We thank you for your contributions towards civil rights. Rest in power knowing that you have passed the torch to the next generation. And let's get off into Jabari's World. Jabari comes home with a homework assignment related to his career day set for tomorrow. His assignment is to prepare questions about the job of a police officer. Jabari sits at the kitchen table after dinner with his mom and dad to discuss his assignment. As Jabari speaks to his parents, a news flash appears on the television. The news flash shows a video of George Floyd and his encounter with the police. Jabari asks, why is this happening? His parents try to explain that a police officer's job is to protect and to serve, but sometimes things go wrong. The next day is career day for Jabari's class. Jabari wakes up excited because his guest speaker is going to be a police officer. Jabari has breakfast with his family, and then his mother drives him to school. Miss Heidi greets her students with a warm hello. She then tells everyone, welcome to class. She then introduces their guest speaker for the day, their special guest for a career day, Officer Johnson. Officer Johnson greets the class and explains what a police officer's job is. Upon completion of his presentation of his duties as an officer of the law, he then asks the class, what would you like to be when you grow up? Javen says she wants to be a veterinarian. Janet says she wants to be a president. David says a police officer. Seth wants to be a fireman. Apple says she wants to be a lawyer. Officer Johnson then asks Jabari, what would you like to be when you grow up? Jabari responds by saying, I want to be alive. Officer Johnson then asks Jabari, what makes you think you won't be alive? Jabari then explains to Officer Johnson what he saw on the television last night. Jabari then asks, why police officers treat Black people differently. Officer Johnson tries to explain to Jabari that police don't treat Black people differently. Then Jabari asks, why are so many people out protesting saying Black Lives Matter? Officer Johnson then goes on to explain that Black lives do matter. Some people are bad people and do bad things, and that can make my job tough at times. People are protesting so that everyone will have equal rights. Officer Johnson then continues. Sometimes it is hard to understand what other people have gone through. This protest is about people having open discussions about racism in America. It's also about realizing that some things we do, have done, and said are offensive to other people. Now that we can talk about these things, we can find ways to address how to correct the problems. Officer Johnson then tells Jabari that these corrections will not happen overnight. It will take some time. But this is America and we can make it happen. We need you and your generation around to help make that change. Jabari felt so much better after having this chat with Officer Johnson. He believed him when he said that he needed to be around so he might help make the change occur. After Jabari's mom picked him up from school that day, his family was scheduled to go to a peaceful Black Lives Matter protest that evening. After attending the protest, Jabari had a new outlook on his life. He decided that he wanted to be a part of the change where everyone is treated equally. The end. And there's Jabari at the protest, people. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. And I think it was so, I mean, the pictures and the words. And so, again, when you got your final product of that book in your hand when it was done, like, did you feel like, wow, this message is very clear about what I'm trying to relate?
I thought so, but I also cried. And I didn't expect to cry. Actually, when I got the first draft, and they had some changes that needed to be done, but to manifest something,
Yeah,
and then physically have what you've manifested, it's a very powerful thing.
yeah, yeah.
So
And the reason
very proud.
the reason I asked that, because my next question is, what would be your advice for aspiring artists and writers who also may have something that's on their spirit that needs to be written?
Go for it, go for it, go for it. You can never go wrong
Yeah,
in doing something that you are passionate about, I feel, because somebody can relate.
yeah,
So if you have it, if it's been placed in your spirit to write something personal, fiction, real life, whatever it is, go for it. I don't see where anyone could go wrong with doing something that they're passionate about and they feel connected enough or open enough to share with someone else to learn from.
yeah. And I love what we were talking about earlier, just understanding this could be used as a tool for me as a mom, for parents, for teachers, just to have these conversations because like you said, and it really hit me that it's so true that our kids during this time, they're absorbing so much, like so much is happening. I mean, we've talked about the racial injustice, mental health, I mean, COVID. I mean, there's so many different things. And these topics can seem pretty sensitive. And I love having, books and different mediums to be a way to have those like very sometimes difficult conversations. I think about my son, like when he saw some of those things happen over the summer again, not because I put him in front of the TV, but it's everywhere they go.
It's on social media, like you can't.
It's everywhere. You can't hide it, and having it in this way allows him to be able to see a face that is welcoming, and also a conversation like, okay, well, he just told the officer that's how I feel. Like I want to just be alive, like can we just having those kind of conversations.
Listen, I remember being in elementary school, and I remember police officers coming to talk to us at school.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never, ever fearful of a police officer as a child. And but we didn't have the type of media coverage on the things that they're covering, I don't feel like, as children. So with it being so in your face these days, and like you said, it's on social media, it's on news, it's on the TV. If you didn't see it, your friends know about it, they talk about it, and then it becomes, oh, let me go see what I missed. And honestly, like, to watch something like that is so traumatic on so many levels, and it does something to all of your spirit. And children are not always the first to come to their parents and open that conversation. So they sit with it, and they don't know how to navigate. Adults, we have outlets. Children don't necessarily have outlets. And they don't always want to talk to you. But if you bring a book like this home and you read that with your child, they may then be prone to ask a question about it, or why does this happen, or why does that happen? And I honestly feel like this Jabaris World is a part of, for me, our American history. This is what has been going on. This is what has been happening. And I would love to see this book in elementary schools across America, because these children need to talk about this and filter out their feelings. They shouldn't grow up in a world where they're scared of police officers, when those are the people that are supposed to help us when we need help.
Exactly. Yep. So what do you desire next? Like, for this series, do you see it as a series? Like, what do you desire next with this, the stories that you're doing?
I just, educational and cultural stories about a little Black boy. I have written 2 other books. One before, so Jabaris, we talked about this before, but Jabaris World, The Profound Question, is the second book that I wrote. The first book is actually about Jabari and his family. So it covers mom and dad and grandma and grandpa, and how old he is, and the school that he attends. And Miss Heidi was in the first book, I believe. Or maybe Miss Heidi wasn't in the first book, but Miss Heidi was actually my kindergarten teacher. So
really,
there are pieces of this book that are taken from people in my real life that I threw into the book because they had that much of an impact on me. So I've currently written 2 other books that I have not started the illustrations on. I am giving Jabari at least a year to fully thrive and flourish, because I would really like to see, like I said, him in like a cultural diversity elementary school across America, because I think it touches on things that these children are absorbing and they need to talk about, and just get out of their system. And they need the help of adults to filter out what they're feeling and direct them into the right path. So Jabaris World will be an ongoing thing. I have at least 10 other topics to write about. But now I'm back at work and I'm flying heavily. So, and the days are longer and the layovers are shorter these days. So I don't have as much creative time, but I am getting it done in the process of being back.
Yeah. Well, we are excited, and we are going to stay in touch. And please, at the bottom, as you all see, this is the link to her website, or the URL to her website, to not only order the book, but just stay in touch and be able to see all the developments of this series. I truly agree that this needs to be in our homes, in our schools, in our youth centers, and just a great conversation piece. So please support and make it a part of it. If you are watching, you are a teacher, add it to your, your classroom library, your suggestions for families, since we are at home, just being able to suggest some great topics, because I believe that, many parents are looking for tools like this to be able to help their children just navigate their thoughts and things that they're feeling during this time. So I gave you a heads up. So this is our closing question, which is, it is Black History Month. Again, I feel like this book is just so appropriate for just this time of year where we're really dedicating our time to Black history. And I believe, like you said, this is American history, but this is also us being a part of rewriting Black history, right? And not even rewriting it, but adding to and being able to see the development of that over time. And so I am a huge music lover. And I believe that music is storytelling as well. And so, what for you are some songs that truly embody and tell the story of Black history that you think, if you had to create your playlist, what would be some of those songs that have to be on the playlist?
I don't have, because you didn't give me much. You should have given me like
It's
2 hours to
okay.
think about this. Then I would have had a better playlist, because I know there are some, like, my first choice when you said that, the first thing that came to mind was Sam Cooke, Change Is Gonna Come.
Yeah.
I am in love with that song. I have been in love with that song. That will be a classic, forever favorite. And I still believe in the words that ring in that song.
Yeah.
A change will come, but we have to make the change come, and it all starts with us.
Yeah.
So this book for me was doing my part, my small part of bringing about a change in little ones and cultivating their little young minds to be the generation that hopefully will fix the problems that we're having with our police reform and police systems, with killing Black and brown men and women. So I'm gonna stay on topic.
You
A
good. You
change is gonna
good. We
come by
got
Sam Cooke.
it.
The second one would have to be like a James Brown, "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." I love
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I still rock my mask. I'm, Black and I'm Proud mask when I wear it. Freedom by Beyonce. I that song is more current, but it resonates with me in a way that when I listen to it, it's profound enough for me to say, she was in her prime when she wrote that song. That brought me, and I'm not a beehiver at all, but that song made me a Beyonce fan. I'm like, oh, she's in her pro-blackness right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see you.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
I would add that to my list. And let me see, is there any other, what's going on? Marvin Gaye? Is that Marvin Gaye?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that would have to be on there. Um, yeah, that's all I got right now.
It's all good. That's an amazing, amazing selection, because I believe it's true that we are, and to be able to mention Freedom from Beyonce and all the way to a Marvin Gaye, what's going on, and messages are still powerful and still saying the same thing. So I believe art is definitely a way that we are able to tell stories and promote and inspire people, right, to do great things. And so
Absolutely.
I'm excited. You said your small part is doing this book. I think it's a large part, because whenever we are implanting seeds and giving opportunities for our kids, it's going to multiply, right? those
Right.
those conversations, those opportunities to really be able to understand themselves and feel strong about themselves and be able to know that they can have those healthy conversations is going to be life lessons, right? That they're going to need to know. So how can I have at the bottom your website, but how can people stay connected with you beyond just going to your website?
So Jabaris World is an Instagram page that I have. It's without the apostrophe. So it's JIBARISWORLD, Jabaris World on Instagram. And Facebook has a Jabaris World page with the apostrophe on it. So if you wanted to tap into there, you can tap into those. And you know, I think on the website there's an email where you can email us if you need to.
Okay.
There's a PO box if you wanted to write. People don't write anymore though, but I also have.
You know what?
Box.
On that note, one of my childhood friends wrote me a letter, and I got it last week, and that was something she said. She said so often, we could call and text; those things matter, but instead of getting a bill and junk mail, like getting a letter is so personal, and it made my day. I'm like, oh, we don't write letters anymore,
It is. But, I'm a dinosaur, right? And I know I'm younger, but I love like personal things.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and my dad, I think he turned me into this person, because I would buy him cards and he was like, buy me a card because I want to see your writing. I want to see what you put in it. So when even with some of the books that people have ordered, if I'm home and I'm able to, I will put a message in them and I'll autograph them and send them to them, because it's just a personal touch you put on something.
Yeah.
It's not just me sending you product. This is my baby. I'm sending you my baby. I want you to take care of him, and I want you to know that I appreciate you even reading and enjoying your reading on this book, because there's so much in that book that I believe in, and I believe that the book will do a world of justice if it touches enough people.
I believe that as well. And every time when we have these conversations, you hear me? You see me?
I can't hear you again. It just went out. My volume went out.
Oh no.
Yeah, the volume's out again. Sorry.
It's okay. But we're at the end. It's okay. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to be able to have Jaleana here. You all see at the bottom her website. Please follow so you can stay connected and learn more about her work. Again, thank you for joining us for our family story time. And please add Jabaris World to your home library. Until next time, we will see you on our next After Story Time next month. Take care.